Hello everyone and welcome back to the Football Chuggu Podcast. My name is Thomas Durning and today I'm joined by my co-host Pearse McLaughlin. Hello Pearse.
Howdy partners.
That's definitely a different way. On today's podcast we'll be reacting to last week's transfer deadline day deals. We didn't do a podcast last week, so we'll just quickly run through that. So we'll talk about the ones from England and in Scotland, and maybe a couple for internationally. We'll talk about Scotland's result on Friday against Denmark, and we'll be previewing Scotland's upcoming match against Belarus. And at the end of the podcast, Pearse will be giving the rundown of all the latest Asian football news. So we'll start off with transfer deadline day. So we didn't do the podcast last week. So obviously we couldn't discuss the transfer deadline day deals that went through, but it was definitely a busy deadline day, both England and Scotland and around the world. So we'll just talk about the big ones that happened. So I think there's only one place to start, Pearse. Alexander Isak. The long saga is over because on deadline day, Liverpool did sign Alexander Isak from Newcastle for £125 million. So that is a British world record fee. So he's the highest paid player. So he's the highest transfer fee in Premier League history. And he has signed a 6-year contract at Liverpool, and it now brings an end to that long saga this summer about Isak. So Pearse, what's your thoughts
on Isak or the transfer itself?
Just on Isak, do you think it's a good signing? How do you think he'll play with Liverpool, and how do you think he's dealt with it all summer?
Well, I'll start with how I think he's dealt. I think he's dealt with it pretty poorly in terms of refusing to train, refusing to play. There's the right way to go about it. I think his behaviour's been unacceptable considering he won a trophy in Newcastle last season. He was one of the main reasons for that. Unbelievable footballer. And I think if they just came to an agreement amicably, I think they could have done that. But I think obviously he's had word from his agent that this is a way to kick up the fuss, leave the club now. And I don't really think Liverpool really needed him. I think Liverpool just wanted him. Because you look at the probably the start Hugo Ekitike started. And obviously they've got a pretty good front line, but I think if you add Isak to that, it's an even better front line. But where do you fit all these attacking players in? Because you've got Mohamed Salah, Hugo Ekitike, Alexander Isak, Federico Chiesa, and just to name a few. And I mean, so it's just you're just adding to the flame. You're just adding to Liverpool's firepower, and Liverpool are the champions from last season, so I think they're still the team to beat. So I think in terms of the fee itself, I think it's massively overinflated, but Newcastle did pay £75 million when they signed him from Real Sociedad, so they were always wanting to make some sort of profit on him. And it's went out to be a club record British Premier League fee in terms of paid rather than obviously received. But I think it's a pretty. I don't think he's worth that much in my opinion. I think he's a good player, but I don't think. I think transfer fees in the Premier League just inflates everything. Because if you look at, for example, back in the day, like the early 2000s, people like world class players, Ballon d'Or winners were going for like 20, 30 million. I mean, so just imagine how much they would go for today. And even Ronaldo back in the day, 80 million. Neymar back in the day, 200 million. So the calibre of player, even Luis Suarez to Barcelona, 75 million quid. So he's not that level. So he's not elite level. He's a good, solid Premier League player. Obviously young, quite young, good potential. But I think all in all, it's a good move. And Newcastle went in and they've had replacements. They got the replacement early, so they could allow him to leave, and they got a massive fee for him. So I think it's a good deal all in all, but I think his behaviour to get it done was unacceptable in my opinion.
Yeah. So the Yep, so as I said, the long transfer saga is over. In terms of Liverpool, they obviously benefit massively because they're getting a player who, is one of the big star players in the Premier League. He's done amazing for Newcastle. Won them a trophy. He scored in that Carabao Cup final to get Newcastle a long way trophy. His numbers in terms of goal scoring has been really high for the last 2 seasons. And yeah, Liverpool are getting a really, really good player. It's going to be really interesting how he fits in because, as you said, Ekitike, I actually thought he's started really well at Liverpool. Looks a really good player. Looks worthy of being Liverpool's starting number 9. But at the moment, now with Isak joining, I think that's going to hamper him because I don't really see Isak sitting on the bench, especially if the fact Liverpool have paid that much money. Yep, in terms of Liverpool, it's a fantastic signing for them. And it's going to be really interesting to see how he fits in. And I mean, with Liverpool signing Isak, it is very hard to see how they don't not win the Premier League. I mean, I think it would be a disaster if they don't win the Premier League now. Because, I mean, you just look at their attacking players. Florian Wirtz, Isak, Salah,
I don't think
Gakpo.
Florian Wirtz has hit the heights yet.
He's not hit the heights yet, but I mean, he's another one, 110 million.
Yeah.
Uh,
Ekitike is big money as well, but I think obviously Liverpool, like you say, they've not spent much money in the past couple of seasons, and they've obviously sold Nunez for big money as well to Saudi. They sold Luis
They've
Diaz
sold really well.
to Bayern Munich as well for big money, and he was like 28, 29. So they've done good business.
Yeah. Aye. But if Liverpool get the Florian Wirtz or Leverkusen, then they're going to be really hard to stop. And then if Mo Salah can be the same Mo Salah that he always has been, I mean, they're going to be really hard to stop. So yeah, so that in terms of Liverpool, in terms of Newcastle, they'll obviously be really disappointed that they've lost their star player. I don't know if you saw that statement that they put out, Pearse, but it was brutal. Just to confirm that Isak had left. So when Liverpool confirmed that Isak had left, Newcastle put out a statement just to confirm that he'd been sold, and there was no thank you or nothing. It was just basically Alexander Isak has left Liverpool, and that was it. It was just brutal. So obviously,
understandable, to be honest.
I mean, obviously they'll be really angry with the way it's been all summer because I mean it's just been such a massive distraction for them.
Personally, I'd just put an emoji like that.
Yeah, so would I. I'd have done something like that because I agree. I think the way he dealt with it, I just
football club.
Yeah, but it's disrespectful to the football club. But you're a professional footballer at the end of the day. You're getting God knows how much money a week, and all you have to do is just play 90 minutes of football every 1 or 2 days a week. Do you know what I mean? Like
yeah, that was like I was saying as well.
It's disrespectful.
You're still under contract. If for example, you're right, normal job, right? If you don't
exactly.
You're possibly getting sacked, right?
Yeah.
Not getting sacked.
Exactly.
And he's getting
he's not getting sacked. No, I know.
Millions a year.
Yeah. I mean, like majority of people who have normal jobs, if they want to leave to go to another job, but like their current job are saying no because we don't have enough staff at the moment. But you know what I mean? Like you can't kick up a fuss because we just have to stay because like if we left that job, then it'd be difficult for us. So I just think the way he dealt with it was just terrible. Really, I really did. I understand people have ambitions and stuff like that. I get it, but he definitely shouldn't have done that, in my opinion. But yeah, so that's that one confirmed. Isak to Liverpool, and then sticking on Newcastle. So they've sold Isak, but they did get another striker in on deadline day, and that was Johan Visa. So Newcastle signed Johan Visa from Brentford for 55 million. So he's the Isak replacement. Again, he's Voltemada. He is another one as well. Yeah, but Visa was another one all summer, kicked up about the fact that he didn't want to play for Brentford anymore, refused to play, blah 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 blah. So Visa, just quickly, Pearse, good signing for Newcastle.
I'm going to touch on Visa and Voltemada, I think.
Oh, and you go, yeah.
I think because that's the two players that replace Isak. because a big man at 6'6", and Walter Maddy played for Stuttgart, the breakout year. He was the top goal scorer under 21s in the Euros with Germany. And he was coveted by Bayern Munich. And obviously Newcastle have acted quickly and got him for a pretty big fee, but he's got the potential. And then obviously you get Wisser as well, who's technically very good, can play in a number of positions, similar to like Brian and Mbeumo at Manchester United. And I think he's went to the next level. I don't think he's he's not really covered his own glory, because like he's a brilliant player for Brentford. And I think he'll add so much firepower to Newcastle. I think Newcastle needed a freshness in the team in terms of the attacking areas, because obviously you've lost Isak, you've lost Callum Wilson, Anthony Gordon keeps getting red carded. And
I don't know.
Jacob Murphy's not getting any younger, so they needed some freshness. And obviously in the early in the window as well, they obviously got Jacob Ramsey as well from Aston Villa. So I think in the attacking areas they've done well. They've done well.
Yeah, I think they've done well of it as well. In terms of Johan Visa, again, another one that I don't agree with the way he's acted. I mean, I think he's a good player, but do I think he's worth 55 million? No, I don't. He's been good for Brentford. Scored lots of goals for them, but I don't know. He's the one I don't know about. I don't know if he's going to live up to the hype of Newcastle. Is he good enough to play for Newcastle? I don't know. I do see Voltamada being the number 9 for Newcastle, and I think Visser will be the backup. But you never know. I don't know. Maybe Visser might turn out to be a success. It's hard to predict these things, but yeah. So basically, the story of the window is basically that if you kick up with us and you want to leave, then you basically will get your move at the end of the day anyway. So that's kind of the way football is at the moment. So we covered these two. There's a lot. We could go for everyone, but we'll be here all day. So I just want to quickly touch on this one, Pearse, and I actually think this is an underrated one in the Premier League. But Tottenham signed Randall Kolo Muani from PSG on loan. So Kolo Muani spent last season on loan at Juventus, and he actually did really well there. He's a proven striker. He did well at Frankfurt a few seasons ago. Did well with him. Did well with them, but Tottenham signed him on loan on deadline day. What's your thoughts on that, Pearse? Do you agree with me? Do you disagree?
I disagree, mate. I don't think he's that good. I think he's.
Yeah, exactly right.
I think he's like, because you look at, for example, I'm going to name somebody that did well at Frankfurt. Sebastian Haller, back 30 goals for Frankfurt.
Yeah.
Premier League, West Ham. Went to Bundesliga, scored a couple of goals. Luka Jovic banged the goals in for Frankfurt. Went to Real Madrid, flopped massively. So I reserved judgment, and then he went to PSG for big money, Kolo Muani, and he's absolutely flopped completely. And he was obviously the man that missed that glorious chance in the World Cup final against Argentina in extra time. That if he scores, France are World Cup champions. But and it makes you say I'm going to give him time, but he's not really one that fills me with confidence that he'll go and take Tottenham to the top 4, for example.
Mm-hmm.
You've got Dominic Solanke, you've got Richarlison, you've got Kolo Muani, but I don't even think he even starts, in my opinion. So for me, it's an underwhelming signing.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Well, you just totally ruined my thing there. No, I don't know. There's something about him that I quite like. He has a good sort of presence. Quite good in the air, good pace. You know, like I agree the fact that it hasn't gone well for him at PSG when he signed from Frankfurt. I get that, but I saw him a couple of times at Juventus last season, and he did really well there. And they were desperate to get him back on a permanent deal, and that never happened. So Tottenham sort of jumped in and got him. Yeah, I don't know. There's something about him that I quite like. I do. I just think that's a good sign for Tottenham. I think he'll do well there. Um, um, well, I'm hoping now he'll do well because I've literally just came out and bigged him up big time. So, if he ends up flopping, then I'm going to be, I may as well not come back in this podcast. But no, I think he will.
I get the
I do. I just have a feeling about him. I just think he will do well. But listen, that's another one. There's a whole load of other ones. Hincapi, I think. Arsenal signed him on loan. Rasmus Højlund left. He went to Napoli on loan from Man United. Jadon Sancho,
What I
Aston
would
Villa.
say, what I would say is a big one for me is the kind of weird one is Donnarumma to Man City and Ederson to Fenerbahce.
Yeah, that was a weird one.
It's a weird one, but it's also, I think it's a massive upgrade. I think Ederson is brilliant about his feet, but I think he's a pretty poor shot stopper. Similar to Claudio Bravo, right? When he came in, I think Ederson is too highly rated. I don't think he's that good a goalkeeper. And I think Donnarumma, a goalkeeper's job is to stop the ball in the back of the net, and I think Donnarumma is one of the best.
Yeah.
And the fact
Oh,
is,
yeah, I think he is the best.
and I think he is the best right now. Like, I think a couple of seasons ago it was Thibaut Courtois, without a doubt. But now it's Donnarumma. He's the man, and literally he single-handedly won games for PSG last season in the Champions League. He was unbelievable, and just because Enrique's got his vision, he wants to have a goalkeeper play the ball at his feet. What, mate? He's a goalkeeper. Like, I wouldn't want someone that's, for example, look at the best goalkeepers in the world. Right, they've always been great shots. They don't have to necessarily be good with the ball at your feet. All you need to do is kind of pass it, simple side to side, or kind of float it to the striker. I mean, like, I think they try to overcomplicate the game of football. I think just let a goalkeeper be a goalkeeper, stop the ball. Because look at James Trafford in the first couple of weeks. He literally, the game they lost last week, he caused a goal, but just passed it in a dangerous position.
Yeah.
So for me, let a goalkeeper be a goalkeeper, and I think Donnarumma is one of the best, and I think that is a bargain the price they got him for.
Oh yeah, I agree. I think that's probably one of the that is probably what you call an underrated signing, because goalkeepers win your titles. That's the famous saying. I'm not saying Donnarumma one man side the title, because I think they've got more problems, but they've definitely sorted that. I mean, I don't get it, but because they signed James Trafford for about 20, 30 million, and it's obviously Guardiola's went right now. He's not going to be the number one, so I don't really see the point why they signed him, because then he's going to be number two.
Mm.
Because there's no way Donnarumma's going to be the backup to James Trafford. It's just never going to happen. But
No.
but it's a weird one, Donnarumma signing for Man City, because we all know Pep Guardiola. He's obsessed with his goalkeepers having to be good with the ball at their feet, and Donnarumma isn't, and that's why Luis Enrique got rid of him at PSG, because he wasn't good enough for the ball at his feet. Don't get me wrong, I agree with you. I don't think you need, because as long as you just keep the ball at the net, that's my thinking. And I mean, see when you watch Donnarumma, is just when you watch him, I always look at him when you see when that player takes a penalty and you see him in the goal. I was like, how do you get the ball past him? He's so big, and like it looks impossible.
He's
So
intimidating.
yeah, exactly. And I think he will. I think he'll keep a lot of clean sheets on Man City. I really do. I think that's a really good sign. And I just hope Guardiola doesn't obsess himself with making sure Donnarumma has to play with the ball at his feet. But I don't know. We'll see how it happens. But yeah, that's a big signing. We'll move into Scotland. Deadline day. We'll start off with Celtic. It's been a very sort of lot of noise surrounding Celtic this summer, because of the fans thinking Celtic have done good enough in the window. But on deadline day, they did sign a couple of players. They signed Sebastian Konecki from Hammarby. He's a young player, has a good breakout season for the Swedish club. What's your thoughts on that one, Pearse?
Konecki, I don't know what to think of it because I've never seen him play. But
Yeah,
he's another winger, but I think he predominantly plays on the left side. And I think that's what kind of Celtic are kind of stacked. It's more the right side. That they needed cover because obviously they lost Nicholas Kuhn. And I think Celtic's transfer window was pretty poor. In terms of letting key players go and not replacing them in key positions. Because I think losing Nicholas Kuhn and not replacing him and virtually Celtic have now only got two right wingers, and that's Yang, who was rumoured to be going, and then he was told he couldn't leave. And then obviously James Forrest, who's obviously in the twilight of his career, still got still got stuff to offer, but he can't exactly play 90 minutes, 60 games a season. His injury record proves that he's not cut out to play a full season, you know. And then Yang has just proven that he's a fringe player at best. But on the left side, you've obviously got Maeda, but I think he'll now play for the middle. You've got Taneke, and then you've signed the boy Balashikwa or Balakishwa, whatever his name is. Okay, I don't know how to say it properly. And then obviously you've got Jota out injured until the new year. So I think heavily left-sided in terms of the attack. Maybe you'll have to play on the right side, but I think they've been tracking him for a while, Celtic. I think they finally got their man, but it remains to see if he'll be a success or not. But because obviously I've never seen him play, but obviously heard good things about him. So yeah, it remains to see how that one goes.
Yep, I agree. A winger, a winger Celtic needed. He's a young player. Brendan Rodgers describes him as an exciting addition. Definitely think he looks like a player that's going to have lots to improve, and I think that's the type of player Rodgers likes. He likes to bring in young players that he can improve. He's had a good season at Hammarby. He got lots of assists for a lot of assists. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how he does. You know, again, I'm the same as you, Pearse. I haven't watched him play, so I don't know much about him. But obviously, as the season goes on, we'll see a lot more of him. We might talk about him a little bit more, see how he impacts Celtic. And yeah, so that's that one confirmed. Another in for Celtic was Kelechi Iheanacho. So Celtic announced that they'd signed him on a free transfer until the end of the season, with an option of maybe extending that for another year. So what's your thoughts on that one? Pearse Kelechi to Celtic?
He was a good player. And
Yeah.
Man City days breaking through, and then his first couple of seasons at Leicester. But he was always back up to Jamie Vardy, which is rightly so. Jamie Vardy's one of the Premier League greats, and Leicester City greats. So, but ever since he's left Leicester, his kind of careers went on a downward spiral. He's not really banged in any goals of note. Went to Middlesbrough, I think he scored one goal. He went to Sevilla and didn't score a goal at all. Had his contract torn up, and then because obviously he was told about Celtic and they wouldn't get the deal done through in time in terms of paperwork. And then he signed also after deadline day, but before the deadline for the European window for the Europa League squad registration. But I think Rodgers is what we were in previously. I think that's the only positive I think you can take from us, because if you're going it from a football perspective, his last few seasons in football, he's not good enough to come and star in the Scottish Premiership for Celtic in terms of European level and domestic level. But his history of what he's done in the Premier League and what he done with Brendan Rodgers at Leicester, I think that's the only reason I think he could be a success. And the fact is that Brendan Rodgers is probably one of the only men that could get that spark back, that fire, get him firing all cylinders again. And I think Celtic needs someone to score goals because we've lost Adam Idah. And you've apart from that, you've then just got kind of young, unproven talent in terms of Johnny Kenny and Shinya Yamada. So it remains to be seen, but I think that one, it's 50-50 for me. He could be, as he says, he could not be. But I think it all comes down to Brendan Rodgers and his ability to get the best out of the players he's got.
Yeah, I agree. Kelechi Iheanacho, very split opinion on him. You know, he did really well coming out of Man City at the start, and then he got his move to Leicester. Did well for Leicester, especially under Brendan Rodgers. That's why Brendan Rodgers has signed him, because he knows him from his time at Leicester. But after he left Leicester, it's not going well for him. You know, went to Sevilla, didn't score, as you said. Middlesbrough loan last season, didn't go well for him. There's been complaints about him the last season or so that he's been unfit and overweight, things like that, which are slightly worrying to hear. But Brendan Rodgers obviously thinks that he can get. He knows them. He knows exactly what he needs. He knows exactly how to play him. So Celtic will be hoping that it works out. But very much a signing Celtic that, in my opinion, was very much a panic, because they knew that Adam Idah had left Celtic to go to Swansea, and they needed a striker. So I think they were just in the end trying to desperately try to find someone, and managed to get Kelechi Iheanacho, but we'll see how that works out. So that's 2 signings Celtic made on deadline day. We'll just move on quickly to Rangers. So they made 2 signings on deadline day. Yusuf Chermiti, Rangers signed him from Everton. That was actually for 8 million. I think that's a record signing. With 10 million, it could go up to 10 million in add-ons.
Yeah.
Um,
I think the previous record was Tory Andrew Flo, 9 million back in the day.
Yeah. So what's your thoughts quickly, Pearse Chermiti to Rangers?
Again, I don't know much about Chermiti, but I think the fact is that Rangers have spent £8 million, rising to potentially £10 million, 5-year contract. I think that shows a signal of intent. That shows that Rangers mean business. That shows you that Rangers have properly backed their manager in terms of at a board level and with a new investment as well. So I think it's a statement signing. I think you've lost Cyril Dessers, you've lost Hamza Igamani, and you need a striker to replace and bang the goals in. I think whether that's him, I don't know, but it shows you that the board have backed the manager. They've identified the target, they paid the money, and yeah, like I say, I think it's potentially club record fee, and I think in Scotland, £10 million for a striker is not cheap. So I think the pressure will be on him right away in terms of delivering, in terms of on his transfer fee, and dealing with the pressure of obviously the Glasgow Fishbowl in terms of you need to win every single game, score every single game. But no, for me, I think that's a big signing for Rangers.
Yeah, I agree. It's definitely a signing that Rangers are going to. The whole it's desperate to be successful because they paid a lot of money for him. It's definitely a signing that they've looked at and gone, right, he's our striker for the future. And they're just now going to be hoping that he produces the goods. Obviously, Kevin Furwell, who's Rangers football director, knows him from his time at Everton. He signed him at Everton, so he's brought him to Rangers with him. And yeah, Russell Martin thinks that he can improve him and make him better. And it's going to be really interesting to see how he does, because it never really worked out for him at Everton. Didn't really get going. Didn't really make a lot of appearances. So going to be really interesting to see how he does there. And Derek Cornelius, Rangers signed him as a centre back, left-footed centre back on loan from Marseille with an option to buy. I'll just quickly say my piece before I pass it to you, Pearse. Again, I'm the same as you. I don't know much about him. He's a Canadian centre back. Don't know much about him, but I actually think that's a good sign for Rangers because I think they are needing centre backs, and I think they need their left-footed centre back because I think the centre back pairing with Giga and Suter, it looks unbalanced. So I do expect Cornelius to play for Rangers quite a lot, and especially on the left sided of defence. And yeah, for me, I think that looks quite a solid signing. What about you, Pearse?
I think I'm going to just second to your opinion. I think I don't know much about him. Obviously, signing from a big club in terms of Marseille. Left side of centre back. I'm pretty sure it's an issue Rangers have had all season. In terms of, like you say, playing Giga and Suter together doesn't seem to be working. You've got Enciala, doesn't seem to be working either. And you've got the boy Fernandez, the signed from Peterborough. It doesn't look ready. So I think they needed someone to come in and just be a starting centre back next to potential Suter or Giga. Remains to be seen. But like you say, they needed reinforcement in defence. I think the Rangers' defence has been an issue this season. It's been a bit weak, a bit suspect. And yeah, so I think they needed reinforcement in terms of both ends of the pitch, in terms of centre backs and in terms of centre forward. I think they've got that.
Yep, I agree with what you've just said. And yep, that's the wrap for us in terms of talking the deadline day transfers. There's, as I said, there's tons that happened. So apologies if whoever's watching we've missed out the ones that we wanted us to talk about. But we'll definitely keep an eye on all the new signings that have happened and talk about them throughout the year. And until January, that's us in terms of transfer deadline day, in terms of transfer news as well.
Well, I think before we
Um,
move on for transfer, I think we've
uh-huh.
got in Aberdeen. I think they had a good deadline day.
Yes, they signed Kevin Nisbet
Kevin
and they
Nisbet,
signed
Stuart
Jasper Carlson.
Armstrong, and Jasper Carlson.
Yeah, that Jasper Carlson one looks really good, interesting. That's quite a good. I think that's probably the best sign of that day of deadline day.
Yeah, we've seen it before because obviously played for AZ against Celtic a few seasons
Yeah,
back, and
yeah, it
he's
looks a really good player.
a lively player. So I think we
Yeah,
just we special mention Aberdeen. I think they've had a poor start to the season. They three signings could kick them on.
I agree. Totally agree. Yep. I think Aberdeen could really benefit from the players that came in on deadline day. Um, so yeah, we'll see what happens. So quickly, Pearse, we'll just move on to Scotland. So we're in international week. So Scotland played on Friday, the first game of the World Cup qualifying. They played Denmark away from home, and they got a 0-0 draw out of that. Pearse, what was your thoughts? Did you watch it, and do you think it's a good result?
I didn't watch the game, but I did catch the highlights, and to say there was pretty much no highlights for Scotland really. Apart from I think it was a Lyndon Dykes chance in the second half where he took far too long. But it was more of a kind of solid defensive performance. I think Angus Gunn had a good game, made a couple of really good saves. And I always like to say going to Copenhagen and to play Denmark is never easy. And I think if you offered me 0-0 before the start of the game, I'd have bitten your hand off for that, especially away from home. So I think a point against Denmark in any qualification campaign is a good result.
Yeah, I agree. I watched the game, and I think 0-0 draw. I would have, if you'd told me that before the game, I'd have bitten your hand off. I think it's a really good result away from home. Get Scotland off to a really good start. Um, it's always important to get points away from home. In these sort of group stages. So yeah, really positive, and that's probably Scotland's toughest game in this group, away from home, away to Denmark. So really good result for them. They played really well, defended brilliantly. Had, in my opinion, had chances to win it, and not full chances. A lot of the game was half chances. Same with Denmark as well. So it wasn't a lot goal mouth action to talk about. But in terms of Scotland's point of view, they'll be delighted with it, and yeah, really good start to the campaign. So just quickly, the Scotland they play today at the time of us recording this. They'll be playing in a few hours. They'll be playing Belarus and Hungary. It'll be behind closed doors, so there'll be no fans there. So Scotland will be playing Belarus. Just quickly for me, Pearse, I'll just start this one. So for me, this is a must-win for Scotland. They have to get the 3 points here. These are the types of matches. If Scotland get to the World Cup, they have to win. Don't get me wrong, it's going to be a tough game. I think Belarus will make it hard for Scotland. But definitely have to get the 3 points here. And I think they will, but it is going to be tough. So, what about yourself, Pearse?
Yeah, I kind of disagree with you. I think Scotland in the group that they've got Denmark, Greece, and Belarus. You should be taking 6 points off Belarus. But that's said on paper. You know, what I mean, you still need to go and do the job, and Belarus won't be a pushover. But if you want to, like you say, you want to qualify for the first World Cup since 1998, these are the type of matches you need to be winning. And obviously get a solid performance of Denmark. Don't let that go to waste. You need to take advantage, be on the front foot, attack this Belarus side, and get the key players involved in the game. In terms of Scott McTominay, Gilmore, McGinn, Dykes, Adams, Ben Doak as well. So I think Scotland need to win this game and get our campaign off to a brilliant start with 4 points.
Yeah. And obviously, we'll see what happens. We'll talk about it next week on the podcast if we've got time. But yeah, just to again confirm, Scotland will be playing Belarus. And let's hope that Scotland get the win that they need. So, for the final part of the show, Pearce will now be giving a rundown of all the latest Asian football news.
Yeah. So, short and sweet Asian football news this weekend. Just South Korea and Japan have played international friendlies. Obviously the domestic leagues are on hold at the moment because obviously international week. So they played on. So start with South Korea. They played on Sunday, the 7th of September. They played against USA away from home, and they got a 2-0 victory thanks to Sean Hyun-min with one of the goals, and got assist for the second for Lee Dong-kyung, who had a cheeky little back heel finish to finish it off. And the man in the match was Jo Yeon-woo, the goalkeeper of South Korea. South Korea went to a back five, very defensive, hit the counter attack and caused USA so many problems. USA couldn't break them down, dominant possession, had a lot of chances, but their shooting boots just weren't on. And yeah, South Korea get a great win. And they're playing on Wednesday, the 10th of September, 10 a.m. kickoff against Mexico. Which again will be another tough game, and I think it'll be another good, exciting game, clash of styles. Yeah, so that's South Korea done. Now we move on to Japan. So they also played on Sunday, the 7th of September. They played against Mexico, and they got a 0-0 draw. The man in the match was George Sanchez, the fullback, right back for Mexico, and Cesar Montes get a red card in the added time. So it just shows you that in terms of Mexico defended really well, and Japan couldn't really find a breakthrough. They made a number of changes, obviously testing new players in different positions, because obviously like you say, Korea and Japan have both already qualified for the World Cup. So this is their way just to prepare for next year's World Cup. And they play on Wednesday also, 10th of September, 8:30 a.m. kickoff against USA. And that is all your latest Asian football news.
Thank you, Pearse, and thank you everyone for listening to this episode of the Football Chuggu Podcast. This podcast will be available to listen to on the Football Chuggu YouTube channel and also the Football Chuggu website. Thanks for listening, and see you soon.
Bye-bye.